Hi, this is Jackie with Nurturing the Family, and I have with me one of my many doulas in my life, Daisy, who just could not be discouraged from being a part of this recording. I always say that Daisy is a great doula to me because she gazes into my eyes and listens to me um, non judgmentally. And she's very familiar with puddle sitting with me, where she's very familiar with just sitting with me while I cry or feel my feelings. And she doesn't try to distract me. Well, she does try to distract me, but she allows me to feel my feelings and she doesn't make it about her. Well, she does make it about her. All right, enough about Daisy. I want to talk today about having the hard conversations. And the hard conversations we may have as a doula could take place whether we work as birth doulas, postpartum doulas, really anywhere in the doula spectrum. We can take place where there are things that we feel like are going on with us professionally, like we feel like our boundaries aren't being respected. We feel like our clients are asking us to do things that fall outside of our standard and scope. We feel like our time isn't being respected. We feel like our contract isn't being honored. Um, and then there can also be times when we feel like things are going on with the family that we're supporting. If the birthing parent has a partner, it might be something interpersonal with them that we find kind of concerning, and we wonder whether it would be good for them to address that before the birth of the baby, if the baby's not yet born, or as soon as possible if the baby's already on the outside. It could be things where we have a concern with, let's say, the birthing mother has, the baby's now 6 weeks old, and that parent is still uncomfortable leaving the home, um, won't leave the home with the baby, or is crying a lot still, or we know that that person isn't sleeping. So there's all kinds of situations when we may feel like we need to have a conversation that, quite honestly, we'd rather not have. We'd rather just keep going. It's easier. Many of us humans are not comfortable with confrontation. And the first thing I want to say is try not to think of it as confrontation. Try to think of it as keeping things working as levelly as possible, as fluidly as possible. And the only way that things work like that, even if we're talking about, riding your bike or your car, everything takes maintenance, right? Everything takes ongoing work. And so do relationships. And when we're working with clients, we actually have a relationship. It is our work, yes, but I think that one of the things that's specific to doula work is that our work is actually relationship work. So it's actually kind of like a whole other level than, say, our plumber, or the person who, I don't know, does anything else that we don't actually have an ongoing thing where it's all interpersonally related, and where the quality of our interactions really matter. So in having relationships, we have to keep them as healthy as possible. So first of all, try not to think of it as conflict. Try to think of it as grooming. Try to think of it as pruning. Try to think of it as maintenance work, like you would do on your car, where you have to make sure it has oil, right? And you have to check all the fluids, make sure that there's air in the tires, all of those things. One thing that I would suggest is that planning in advance for these things is to talk about it that way with my clients when I have my intake visit with them, when I have, whether it's a prenatal visit or just an intake if the baby's already been born, and talk to them about exactly that. This right here between us, this is going to be a relationship. It matters to me. It's valuable. And so one thing that I know about relationships, just like your relationship with each other, if the birthing parent has a partner, is that this is going to take work, and that we're both going to have to be very open with our communication. So let's talk about my contract. Let's talk about what I mean when I say X, Y, or Z. One thing I would suggest that you either work into your contract, which is always a challenge to decide what to put into your contract, because you don't want it to be this like lengthy, like kind of like 10-page manifesto, but on the other hand, you want to make sure you hit all the important things. So whether you talk about it just while you're reviewing your contract, or you make sure that you have it bulleted in there, I would talk about the concept of the team meeting. And what I call the team meeting is a meeting of, I'm having terrible allergies today, I'm sorry, is a meeting of anyone who's involved intimately with the doula care that we're providing. So whether it's birth doula work and it's the birthing team, if that's just the mother and whoever her supporting person is, whether it's their best friend, their parent, their partner, it could just be, that could be the birthing team. It could also, whether it's birth or postpartum, include the birthing parent, their partner, and let's say the mother-in-law is going to be staying with them. Anyone who's really going to be an intimate part of things on a regular basis, we want to have that person there when we have a team meeting, whenever it's possible. And one thing that I like to do is I like to have my team meetings built in, and I describe it as maintenance. So we're going to need to do this ongoing maintenance, and I would suggest that we do it, if we're doing it as birth doulas, maybe even suggest that we just do like a 5-minute check-in, kind of like a Skype sort of thing, or a phone call where we patch everybody in together, and we can just say, how do you think things are going? How do you think I'm doing? What can I do to further support you? Are there any things that I should know about? Same thing with the postpartum stuff. I like to plan on having team meetings, ideally during the time that I'm already serving them, right? During the time that I'm already there, weekly. We can always say, I don't see any need for a team meeting. Do you see any need for a team meeting? No? Okay, we can just skip this week. But it's great to have it in place. It's great to have it in place so that when those hard conversations come up, there's already a forum that's been created and it's just waiting for me. So I don't have to come up with the, I have to talk about something. When do I bring it up? I can just say, you know what? I think we need to call the team meeting. Or just wait for the team meeting to roll around and bring it up then. So first of all, I think that that's something that can really help you. Another thing is to remain non-judgmental, right? Always be mindful of that as being an important part of our role. So some things that are going to go on with the families that you support are going to be cultural. Some things are going to be within the dynamic of that family. Trust me, their dynamics are nothing like your family. None of them ever can be. They can feel similar, and then all of a sudden, bam, something comes up and you think like, wow, we never would have handled that way. And that's because they're not you. So before you call a team meeting, really, really question yourself as to whether you're just uncomfortable with something because it's unfamiliar to you, or whether you see it going down a path that could be other than healthy. And since as doulas, our job is to provide anticipatory guidance, what anticipatory guidance am I planning on sharing with them? So for one of the very obvious ones, when a parent seems to be having a really hard time, like I said, emotionally adjusting, and we're seeing a lot of those like kind of like bulleted points that indicate to us that this mom isn't okay. First of all, am I basing it on me and my expectation? Did I have that whole, oh, I'm superwoman, I'm out, jogging with the baby in the stroller a month after the baby's born, which is not a healthy thing to do, by the way. And cooking all the meals and everything, and anybody who isn't doing that is somehow non-functional? Or am I able to like look at specific behaviors? And that's what I would encourage you to do, is to cite the specific behaviors. So Nadia, I have observed some behaviors, some things, I wouldn't call them behaviors. I've observed some things during my time with you that I really want to discuss with you. Every time I come to your door, you cry. And it's not like just like a brief little tear. I mean, like it takes us like a half hour to kind of process what you're grieving at that point. And I've been coming for 6 weeks now, and that's a really long time. That's kind of outside of what we see as being common. I also see this behavior and this behavior. And it seems to me that maybe you're having a hard time. And so I'm wondering what you think of that. So what you see I'm doing is I'm just citing observations, because as a doula, my job is to notice, right? So I'm noticing, I'm sharing them. I'm not really assigning any kind of value to them, although in that last part I did say it seems to me that you're having a hard time. But I made it clear that it's me, it's my perception of that, and just sharing, and then very open-ended. What do you think of that? How do you think things are going? Is there anything that I could be doing to make things easier? Let's say my clients are, I'm working as a postpartum doula, and my clients are, I'm at the point where they just want me to babysit. I've noticed every time I turn up, she just wants me to hang out with the older child, and she's going to her postpartum Pilates class 3 times a week, and sometimes she takes a baby with her, and sometimes she doesn't. And I've noticed that my mosaic, the mosaic that Susan Martinson talks about as being the kind of like colorful piece of artwork that we're creating every time we do postpartum work, where there's some, let's say, breastfeeding support, and there's some support of the older children, and there's a whole lot of listening, and there's some kind of organization, kind of household organization going on, has become really one color, and it's just babysitting. Okay, so I wait for the team meeting, or I say, can we please have a team meeting? And then I say, one thing that I've observed is that most of the time that I'm spending with your family now is providing childcare. And I think it's so great that you are out there in the world now and you're comfortable in transitioning. And my role is less so to provide childcare and more so to help you to make that transition, because you are going to have an ongoing need for childcare. Okay, so my job is to help you to figure out, strategize how to meet that need rather than filling that hole, because I can't be your doula, for the next 13 years until you feel comfortable leaving this child alone, right? And the team meeting allows it. So again, I know that my opinion has value, okay, so I'm not apologizing for it. I already have something in place so that they're expecting this team meeting thing to happen, because it's probably happened before, hopefully. And all we just talked about how great everything was. That's good. I cited my observations. I don't color them with my emotions. I don't say, I feel really taken advantage of, and this isn't, you know my contract, and this isn't what I do. And I'm just citing very clearly my observations, what my role is, and what should happen next. All right? So that's just something I want to talk about, kind of whatever situation you find yourself in, and we can't even anticipate what that might be. Just remember, have your team meeting in place, whether you do birth or postpartum or any other kind of work.